Arabs are the enemy. That was the reality I was born into, I grew up in. I was raised in a small religious settlement somewhere in the West Bank, surrounded by olive trees and Arab villages. I was forcefully thrown into a complex political struggle from a very, very young age. It was all around me. It was in the schools, it was on the news in kindergarten, it was at home, and you just can't get away from it. And children who grow up in those places are never sheltered from this harsh reality of war and death. It is all around us, and your childlike view of a safe world is just completely gone. I want to share with you a little bit about how I felt coming close to Arab people when I was a kid. I was terrified. I remember when we would drive through Arab villages, I would stare out the window and I would look at the signs. They were written in this curly language that I didn't understand, but had a very scary connotation for me. But the thing that scared me the most was the Arab language when I heard it. It reminded me of shootings and rocks flying and people I knew and got killed. But all that was about to change, and that's what I want to share with you today. One thing that didn't make any sense to me growing up in a religious little place was the contradictory way that I would read and meet the God of the Bible, and then the way that the rabbis would present God when we would study in the rabbinic literature. So on the one hand, you have this very loyal, strong, loving warrior king, the God of Israel in the Bible. But on the other hand, the rabbis painted a picture of a very cold and distant God, almost robot-like, a type of God that wouldn't think twice before he would strike you down with a lightning bolt if you dared to tear a little piece of toilet paper on Saturday, which is forbidden completely in Judaism. And so I admired the God of the Bible with all my heart as a kid. I wanted to follow him like Abram did. I wanted to charge into the battlefield in his name like David. I wanted to proclaim his righteousness like the prophets. But at the same time, I was so angry at the God that the rabbis painted. I thought to myself, how can he expect me to do all these laws and rituals that are written and that I have to perform without knowing how it feels like to be a human being, without knowing how it feels like to be trapped inside this body and inside this rotten, fallen world? Now, Jesus was a completely foreign idea to me. I had no idea who he was. It's a different culture. It's crosses, crusades, and popes. We never learn about him in school. We kind of forcefully ignore his existence in a way. We never acknowledge him as one of our own. And, sorry, just a little... So we moved out of the little settlement I lived in, and I realized that I don't want to live in this fake little game that I was playing, pretending that everything was okay and I was fulfilling the law. So as a teenager, I decided that I respect God too much and I fear him too much, and I'm just going to leave religion. But God was still there somewhere as this distant character or, a name you call out in times of trouble. So back to the idea of Jesus in the Jewish mind, we would never even consider following him because for us, it will feel like a betrayal of the God of the Bible, the God of Israel, that even though it's kind of distant from us at the moment, still has this really strong grip in every Jewish heart. And this weird, paradoxical loyalty that we feel towards him creates this barrier between Jesus and his people. Now, that same exact barrier crashed down to the ground with me the first time I opened chapter 53 in the book of Isaiah. We call it the forbidden chapter. We're not allowed to talk about it or to ask questions about it. We just skip it. The first time I read it, something happened. I recognized him, I saw him, and all my questions were answered at that same second. And I realized that he knew what it was like to be a human. He knew exactly, and he made a way for us to get to him because we couldn't do it by ourselves. Sorry. And that moment when it happened, I started seeing the world through Jesus's eyes. Everything was different, like a blank page. My life just completely changed, and I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn more about him. And so I signed up to study at the One for Israel Bible College that we have. And I want to share with you the first time I sat in the chapel. They had a worship service, and they started singing a song in Arabic. And I sat there, and I remember every note that they played took off layers and layers of fear, hate, pain, war, everything that was just choking me. Every note that they played, and every word that they said in that same language that terrified me to death a few years before sounded like the most beautiful thing in the world to me. And that, my friends, is the power of the gospel. It has the power to clean and heal and make us new again. Today, I'm a part of this small media team in Netanya, in the One for Israel. And what we do is we produce videos and we share them with everybody. We have our testimonials. I don't know if you guys heard about them. It's the I Met Messiah videos where we have Jewish people just sharing their experience in finding God. We also have some Israeli testimonies. They sit there, they tell their story. It's not easy to come out. We call it coming out of the Messianic closet. It's not easy. You get a lot of bad reactions from people in the street, but people do it. We started doing it. And we also have a series of apologetic videos in which we take arguments that rabbis make against Jesus and we just tear them apart. One by one, we do it from a biblical perspective. We take some atheistic claims as well, and we just explain God's existence, creation versus evolution, and all of that in the Hebrew language. Now, what's so special about it is it's not just videos, for me at least. It's a beginning of a revolution. And that's what I want to share with you guys today, because you see, for the last 2,000 years, we had these gatekeepers, that's how we call them, and that's the Jewish religious leaders. They get the final word and they decide what goes in the Jewish communities. And it is very easy for them to stop the gospel from coming in because they decide it. And it was very easy for them to do so because, you know, in the last 2 millennia, a lot of people who claimed to be followers of Jesus did some very horrible things to our people. And so it's easy to paint Jesus as a traitor, as, this forbidden name that you can't even pronounce. They don't even say his name, Yeshua. They can't say it. They say Yeshu, which is a curse word. And so that was their ground. But there is one thing that the rabbis have no control over whatsoever. And that, my friends, is the internet. Yes. It is this, neutral battleground, and we leave the gatekeepers completely powerless. The internet is a land of its own. I call it the outermost place of earth. And Israelis, I don't know if you've noticed walking down the streets, but they're constantly on their phones. Their face is stuck to their phone. They are online 24/7. They don't notice what goes around them. And actually, we are one of the leading nations in using social media sites like YouTube, Facebook, and so on. And so this is the place where we go and we place the gospel, and they can't ignore it. It's on their news feeds. It's in their mailboxes. It's everywhere. They have to face us now. And all these forbidden secret chapters are no longer secret. They all know what Isaiah 53 is, and they're all going to read it for themselves and see for themselves if that's the truth or not. And it's happening. They come to faith in huge numbers. We get messages every single day. Now, I look back at what God did with me through the gospel. I come from a very radical mindset, very, very radical. And if God was able to change my point of view, today I love my Arab brothers and sisters. I pray for Muslims for their salvation every single day. I see them through Jesus' eyes. And I believe that if we bring the Israelis to faith, if they will see the world through Jesus' eyes, they would love the Arabs as well. So we believe that the best way to bless Israel is with the gospel. That's what we do. I want to share with you, first of all, it's not easy to say these things to the Israelis. They're pretty mad at us. The leaders, the religious leaders, want to stop us every way they can. So what they do, they would tell their followers that we are blasphemers, that we try to steal Jewish souls, that's our purpose, and they would send death threats to us and to our families. But we don't consider them the enemy, even though they consider me and us and the whole team the enemy. We see them as broken, lost people that simply need the love of Yeshua in their life. And once they will find Jesus, they will find this peace. And that would be the same peace that would finally break this barrier, like the veil that was ripped between Jews and between Arabs. So that's our mission in what we're doing. But some of the reactions are good. You would not believe some of the people actually like us. I want to share with you this really short story. One time we got a message from this Israeli guy. He writes down, "Please come and pray for my kid, he's dying." We never got that type of message before. It's usually curses. And so apparently this guy, Israeli guy, used to watch our videos for a while. He wasn't a believer yet. And his son was dying with cancer. His son's name is Stav. This cute little 3-year-old kid. And the treatments caused a flesh-eating bug to hurt his eyesight. He was completely blind. And the doctor said that you have to do this operation on the kid or else he dies. But the father wanted to put his faith in God and he didn't go forth with the operation. He called a lot of rabbis to come help him and pray for the kid. Most of them turned him down. They didn't want to go, or they asked for these really huge sums of money that he didn't possess. So when he contacted us, me, Eitan, and Moti, the 3 people you'll see in the videos, went down to the hospital and we prayed with them and their families, and his family. And I got to play a little bit with little Stav. We became friends. You know, he couldn't see, but apparently you don't need eyes to play. It's like this universal language. And that was it, and we left. And 3 days later, the doctors called in the family, and they said that the cancer was gone. And that no operation was needed. But that is only the beginning of the miracle. That's just the small part. Because what happened later was his brother Jacob, who used to be really much against us, he would argue with him about our videos and how bad they are, he came to faith. And then their sister came to faith, and their mother, and the whole family dedicated their lives to Jesus. And after that, we called Jacob and asked him to record his testimony. You can actually watch it. It was one of our most successful testimonies. It got more than 500,000 views. I wanted to say 500 million, that's too much. 500,000 views in total. And just so you grasp the numbers, Israel has 8 million citizens, plus minus. Our Hebrew-speaking videos got more than 18 million views in total. And in total, all around the world, we have more than 68 million views. So people are watching this stuff. Things are happening. And by the way, today Jacob is one of the leaders in a congregation in Ashdod. So I get to witness from, the front row how, God is transforming the Israeli people. And I even get to take part in it, take an active part. And that is an experience that leaves, a wretch like me completely humbled. And even just standing here tonight before you guys, as you can see, I was pretty nervous, but I really wanted to share this with you so you know what's happening, because it is hopeful and things are happening. And this is, we talk about prayer all the time, and I have a prayer request from you guys. I ask you to pray for a true spiritual revival in this country with the Israelis, with the Arabs. And I just ask that the name Yeshua will no longer be a curse word on the Jewish tongue, but it will be said in the same breath as the God of Israel, who he is. Yeshua is making aliyah, okay? He's no longer a foreign idea, and his name is Yeshua again.